one short loop of 12 bars has powered a century of music. It is the engine under early blues, under rock and roll, under huge stretches of jazz and soul, and it still turns up in songs on the radio today. Whole careers have been built on top of it. And here is the surprising part. That loop is not some elaborate piece of theory you need years to learn. It is 3 chords, arranged over 12 bars, in a pattern you can learn in a single sitting. Once it is in your hands, you can play along with thousands of tunes, jam with strangers in any key, and follow where the music is heading before it gets there. So let us take it apart slowly. First, the 3 chords it is built from. Then the 12-bar grid that holds them. Then the one twist that turns plain chords into the gritty sound we actually call the blues. By the end, this little loop stops being a mystery and starts being something you own. The whole form is built from just 3 chords, and we name them with Roman numerals so the idea works in any key. The 1 chord is built on the first note of the scale. In the key of C, that 1 chord is simply C, the C major triad, C, E and G. This is home base, the chord everything else leans away from and returns to. Next comes the 4 chord, built on the 4th note of the scale. In C the 4 chord is F, F, A and C. It feels like a lift, a step away from home. And then the 5 chord, built on the 5th note. In C the 5 chord is G, G, B and D. The 5 is the most restless of the 3, leaning hard, wanting to pull you back. 1, 4 and 5. In the key of C that is C, F and G. 3 chords. That is the entire harmonic vocabulary of a classic blues, and almost every blues song you have ever heard is made from these 3 and nothing more. Now we lay those 3 chords out in time. The classic blues is 12 bars long, 1 trip around before it repeats, and each bar gets 1 chord. Picture 12 cells in a row. The first 4 bars sit on the 1 chord, our home chord, C for full bars of home, settling you in. Then 2 bars of the 4 chord, F, lifting the sound. Then back to 2 bars of the 1 chord, C, returning home. Bar 9 jumps up to the 5 chord, G, the highest tension yet. Bar 10 drops to the 4 chord, F. Then the last 2 bars, 1 chord, C, and finally the 5 chord again, G. You walk it once more as the highlight steps through. 1, 1, 1, 1. 4, 4. 1, 1. 5. 4. 1, 5. That shape, that exact sequence of 12 bars, is the skeleton of the blues, and once your ear knows it you will hear it coming a mile away. Here is the twist that makes it sound like the blues and not just a nursery rhyme. The blues takes those plain triads and adds 1 more note to each, the flat 7th. Stacking that note on top turns an ordinary chord into a dominant 7th chord, and dominant 7ths have a gritty, restless, slightly unresolved color that is the whole flavor of the blues. Take the 1 chord, C. The plain triad is C, E and G. Now add the flat 7th, which for C is B flat, the black key just below the top C. Now we have C, E, G and B flat, the C 7th chord. Listen to the difference. The plain triad sits still and settled. The 7th chord leans, aches a little, refuses to fully settle. In a real blues every chord gets this treatment, so the 1, 4 and 5 all become 7th chords, C7, F7 and G7. Same 3 chords, same 12 bars, but soaked in that dominant 7th grit, and suddenly it sounds like the blues. Now look at how the loop never lets you go. Walk to the final bar, bar 12, and instead of resting on home it lands on the 5 chord, G. The 5 is the most unsettled sound in the whole form. It does not feel like an ending. It feels like a question, a held breath, a hand reaching back toward the start. That last bar has a name, the turnaround. Its entire job is to spin you back to bar 1, to the 1 chord, so the form begins again. End on the 5 and your ear is practically dragged back home to the top of the next loop. That is why a blues can run for 3 minutes or 30. The turnaround keeps closing the circle. 12 bars, then the 5 kicks you back to bar 1, and round it goes again, as long as the band wants to keep playing. So that is the whole machine. 3 chords, 1, 4 and 5. 12 bars in a fixed pattern. Dominant sevenths for grit, and a turnaround on the 5 that loops you back to the top. Master these 12 bars and you have a key that fits thousands of locks. Sit in with a band, hear someone call a blues in any key, and you already know the roadmap, where the 4 lands, where the 5 hits, where it all comes home. It is the single most useful form a beginner can learn, because the pattern never changes, only the starting note does. And once the chords feel automatic, the next door opens, playing a melody over the top, soloing, bending notes against these changes. The scale that sings over a blues, the one that gives those wailing solos their sound, is a story for another lesson. For now, you have the form itself, the 12 bars that built a century of music.